You're listening to Roundtable with myself, He Young, and Neela in the studio. Coming up, there has been a huge uptick in the number of users of cooking apps, as well as viewers for cooking videos. Have you developed a few delicious dishes with all that time you have at hand holed up at home? And fathers hit the grocery stores during the coronavirus outbreak. Why is it the dads? And why is it also a little bit hilarious when they take up this family responsibility? If you're listening to our show on demand, you can find us at Roundtable China on Apple Podcast and our 轻松调频 app. And now on Roundtable, as we continue our discussion. Staying indoors during the coronavirus outbreak has led many families in China to cooking 3 meals a day at home. This has created huge upsurge in users of cooking apps and viewers of culinary videos online. A cooking competition has gone viral as a result. So, Neela, actually, we've talked about this before, and you have actually become someone who's a lot more into cooking, as well as being able to come up with these super delicious dishes.
I have been able to, get to that point where I can consider myself for a job as a shoe chef.
Only the shoes and the sous chef?
Yeah, I'm not, I haven't yet gotten to the level of, the likes of Gordon Ramsay, but I hope I could
one day
as time goes by. And it's been quite interesting because I was a person who never really liked cooking. I did find it tedious, and hence we were talking about saving money. I wasn't able to save how much I wanted because I was eating out a lot. But now I've been forced to learn how to cook, and I'm actually quite enjoying it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
and you're not alone. Apparently, this passion for cooking has been ignited for a lot of Chinese people these days. Yeah, and people have been sort of showing off their dishes online and, through social media. And I can spot more than a few filters being used, but certainly a lot of people I know, they're like, I didn't used to think that they're the type that would sort of do the setting and the presentation of the dishes and make sure that it looks amazing, and hopefully it's as tasty as it looks like. But this is something that people have sort of participated in, and it's become a trend.
I mean, it's a trend that has, because in the very beginning when this whole situation began, a lot of people were just bracing themselves by stockpiling on food stuff. But what happens after a few weeks of eating everything from your fridge and from your freezer, and now you've got to become creative, and a lot of people have begun, to teach themselves how to cook, especially the more difficult dishes, the dishes that they love, and they like to, when they want to eat them, they go to a restaurant. So now you have to try, sort of imagine having the same dish, but trying to teach yourself. And for this, this comes out of that necessity, because you miss going out to dine in it could be in a fine dining place or just your regular across the street noodle store, and you try to emulate that. So we've seen, because a lot of people have been deeply affected, and this has, of course, spurred many to rediscover the pleasures of cooking as a delicious way to pass time and become a little bit more self-sufficient. So now we are seeing that people making food that they would normally have in restaurants or buy in stores. And so you've got, like, when you go online, especially on Chinese social media, you're seeing people making things from liangpi, a noodle-like Chinese dish. I think it's made from wheat or rice flour. Some people have gotten into, baking and baking cakes and baking baozis. Some people have managed to, encourage themselves to use rice steamers. And of course, during this process, it's not just the recipes that we love that we're trying out. Some people are even concocting their own recipes and, just rediscovering things that they could, with, mixing ingredients that they otherwise would never tried before. And generally we see people giving each other tips, and some of these things, like recipes and tips, have been going viral on the internet, and everybody basically has just turned themselves into little chefs.
Yeah, I guess so. And I have a confession to make. I only know how to cook 5 dishes. Without the oven, I know 5 dishes.
Does it include a soup?
If you include a soup, doesn't really require that much like culinary ingenuity, I would imagine.
It depends on what kind of soup you're making.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's swap tips here and notes here.
Yeah.
So for the Chinese type of soup, usually it's quite clear. It's not the chunky type, and so it very much relies on good ingredients.
Yeah.
So if it's dried scallops or I'm having trouble to think of some really good ingredients here, but let's say if you have like a nice piece of just a whole of a free-range chicken, something like that, and then you put in like some of the other ingredients and just let it boil for hours, and usually you are guaranteed with pretty good soup, and usually it's a really clear type, so soup for me is not something that maybe is putting your culinary skills to the best test, but I think for like stir fry, for example, I mean, to me that's very much more of a Chinese cuisine thing, and it would require you to sort of get the timing really strict, and also blasting the fire under the wok, and how severe you want that to be. It's all part of an art or experience that good chefs acquire and that kind of thing. So, I mean, if I had to cook every meal for this long time, I'd run out of tricks after day 2 or day 3 if I'm being like really strict here. So I can understand that people need new inspirations, also just recipes to sort of feed themselves as well as keep things exciting. As when you're at home, there isn't that much you can do, although there are a few things.
Okay, so then I do challenge you. If you run out of soups to make, then you can
try. I don't have that many ingredients.
You could try. You could try making a sort of like maybe like a French soup, or something you would find, let's say, in a Gordon Ramsay kind of restaurant. Yeah, and I think that one, because I think the difference with that for me, and why I think it's such an achievement for me to sort of learn how to make those kinds of soup, is because when it comes to Chinese soups, I really, really love them. But I think with Chinese soup is because it's more visual rather than the palate. So you can see almost every ingredient put in a sort of a broth and a certain maybe flavor in it, and that's about it. And it's not. Maybe the cooking process might be a little bit more complicated, but when I look at the soup itself, it's more visual. When it comes to, for example, if you make, let's say, a scallop and ginger and all this, you mix in with, I don't know, saffron and all these kind of like sophisticated ingredients. You're taking the soup, you're eating the soup, but it's not just the soup. It's all about trying to figure out what kind of ingredients were they. So for me, the whole journey has been not just about making the soup, but training to my taste palette to recognize even the tiniest of ingredients.
Wow, you're going to
particular dish
become such a food critic after all of this, with all that training.
And now everything I cook is all about that. I'm like the sauces I make, I'm trying to taste, is there garlic? What is the strongest flavor? Did they mix well? And the stuff like that. I've become my own little critic to my own, chef skills.
Yeah, very nice.
That has been exciting.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of reasons, for a lot of people out there, it's also been quite an exciting journey, just being able, either whether you're alone or with your partner, trying to rediscover this. And there are so many reasons why a lot of people have been doing this, for it to become a trend. One, of course, with the outbreak, residential communities closed their gates to reduce person-to-person contact. So that meant people have to stay at home. And so if you had to get something outside of your home, the only solution was to order online and then collect your takeaway and deliveries at the community entrance.
Yes, and certainly the coronavirus outbreak has wound up teaching many Chinese people how to become pretty serious chefs with the help of recipe apps. The apps can make good dinners, but they can cook up good profits too, is my question. And we have Chen Tong with a report on this topic.
How do you fry chicken wings? That didn't sound easy to an amateur cook like Guan Jingwen, but recipe apps came to her rescue. She's learned to make everything from chicken wings to French fries and pizzas during the epidemic, spurred on by the need to make the favorite dishes of her two sons.
We couldn't eat out, so we tried to make everything at home, and that pushed me to rely on the recipe apps. To amateur cooks like me, recipe apps are very helpful. They provide lots of suggestions and inspirations.
One is far from the only one who took advantage of the recipe apps to become very good at cooking yummy dishes out of necessity. In January, the number of active users of the recipe app 下厨房 hit 14.8 million, jumping by 8% from the previous month. Recipe apps have become increasingly popular during the epidemic, but they're not new. Some of them have been around for more than 10 years. And there's a lot more on them than just recipes. The other functions include online communities allowing cooking fans to share their thoughts, to online shops selling ingredients and kitchenware. There's no clear idea about whether the apps are making money, but observers point out that since they've been around for years, they have to be doing something right.
Recipe apps can make profits through advertising, online shopping, paid content, and their big data. Some recipe apps are backed by large e-commerce sites, and some of them have also been in the market for more than a decade. Even if they're not making money now, they have potential value for the future.
And of course, the epidemic has enhanced the value of the recipe apps. But the question is, whether there are many current users will stick with them as the epidemic eases and the restaurants come back to work.
Very important to the future development of the recipe apps will be whether users will get into the cooking habit by using them frequently and changing their lifestyles after the epidemic.
Another challenge to the apps is the fact that finding a recipe online is not difficult. Cooking bloggers are very active on video websites and streaming apps, and they're happy to share their secret dishes. The recipe apps may be doing well now, but to stay in business, they are going to have to cook up a storm. Qintong, Shanghai.
That's really interesting. We're seeing that recipe apps are having a moment right now. Well, Neela, have you checked out these recipe apps? And also, there are various platforms that have the these internet celebrities or internet celebrity chefs that show you how to cook on video platforms too.
I haven't really, I didn't even realize that I could actually download an app for cooking till now. For me, I'm more into the video streaming, like being on YouTube and Youku and stuff like that, and finding actual chefs that I know, like celebrity chefs, or people who generally own restaurants and they've gone through a culinary education. So those are the people I tend to follow their recipes, because there are sometimes you could find maybe, but this is just something I worry, like you can find somebody posts a really nice photo on their Instagram and they post like a video, like a real quick video on how they made the dish. When you try to follow that recipe, it doesn't turn out like that at all. At all. So I've learned to stay away from that. Yeah. So for me, apps, I don't think I would actually download a cooking app on my phone, but I would definitely, if I need to cook something, I go on the video streaming services and find, because at that point I can pause. You have the live action. You get the ingredients, and they also, like, I go to blogs where the recipes have been posted. So before I go to check out the video first, I need the ingredients. So I need to know what ingredients did this person use and how much of it, then I get that recipe and then turn on the video during the cooking process.
Right. And actually, some people have sort of complained that that's a disadvantage of the video apps when you're learning or you're trying to learn how to cook there. That is because the video goes so quickly, and sometimes it's like, 1 minute in teaching you to cook a grand dish like slow braised pork belly or something like that.
2 hours.
Exactly. And then, so you gotta pause like every other second, it feels, and you gotta go back and for a few seconds back to sort of really understand one step or something like that. And then so that can be a little bit just not handy.
I think those are the kinds of videos. I mean, for me, if it's a cooking video and I'm cooking let's say braised pork, which is supposed to be a little bit of a more complicated dish, it's time consuming as well. I wouldn't go for such short videos. I would go for a video that's about 5 minutes or longer, because then it gives you time to follow step by step. For the short videos, maybe that is only something I would watch it, and then I would say, "Oh, the end product looks really nice. Perhaps I should try this." And then I go and find other sources to find longer videos that will actually help me step by step at a much slower pace for me to be able to follow the recipe. I wouldn't advise for people to follow like a 1 to 2 minute cook, unless if you're cooking an egg. That's different.
Yeah, and if you need a video to teach you how to cook an egg, I would think
People who actually do.
Yeah, maybe in the beginning of.
I have actually. It depends. For example, I don't know. I'm still struggling with making a poached egg. Every time I try, it just comes out horrible. And I'm still learning how to do a sunny side without it sticking on my pan.
Oh, well, that's kind of hard. Isn't it about just putting in enough oil and letting it sort of simmer a bit?
I don't know. It's also sometimes because one thing I discover, sometimes, it's all about the timing. I think timing is really, really important if you're making a sunny side egg. You don't want it to, it could be maybe 1 minute, and then after you remove it, it's still cooking without you knowing. By the time you sit down to eat it, it's solidified in a way. So it's just like getting the right amount of timing and the right amount, or maybe even the cooking pan in itself also makes a huge difference.
Yes, that's a good point. And what I found to be really difficult is when I'm trying to cook, let's say, fish.
Yeah.
And not let it get stuck on the pan.
Yeah.
Ooh, and I haven't had much luck in that.
My Chinese friend said to me once, I did try that once because I was trying to deep fry some tilapia, and I was really excited because this is food from home, and I got a tilapia here in China.
But then I just ask, what is a tilapia?
It's a freshwater fish.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a freshwater fish. And so when I did try to make it, to deep fry it, it's one of those fishes that you see then they're deep fried, they look golden brown. It's a whole fish, and it's cut into nice little pieces. It's like golden brown, delicious. And I tried to do that at home. It was a disaster. And then my Chinese friend told me, next time maybe try to rub a piece of ginger on the pan. I tried that, it still didn't work. Then I realized maybe it's the pan, or I need a wok rather than a regular pan.
And my answer to that is I need my dad, because he manages to do it, and I always fail, and I need some tips from him.
Yeah.
And during this period of time, actually, there has been a few new trends that have emerged. One being that yeast has been in shortage, and it seems like basically lots of people are super into baking.
I totally have to agree, because I got to a point with like you were saying that at some point you got bored because you don't know what else to make. So I ran out of ideas of things. So I wanted to try baking. I'm not into pastry and baked bread and stuff like that. But I decided maybe this is the time for me. I would like to make a pizza. So I decided, okay, of course I got the recipe, and then I realized, oops, I've never ever bought, I don't even know how yeast looks like. So then I had to sort of Google it and translate it to Chinese, and then I texted the woman across the street with a little shop and asked her if she had yeast, and she said, oh, it ran out a long time ago.
And there's this sudden interest in baking all kinds of goods at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, Huang Shen, she posted some pictures of her baking all kinds of stuff. And I remember there was this apple pie kind of thing. And, I mean, it just looked super delicious. It got me, kind of yearning for pastries. And I don't have an oven at home, so there's nothing I can do. But certainly, I mean, Chinese people, all of those people who have been at home and, just trying to stay away from the epidemic and keep life going on. And I think I appreciate it when I see so many of us, trucking along and finding the inspiration.
Yeah, and making cooking great again.
Yes, and all of that. And it's part of enjoying life. And that is the spirit that I am always hailing for and applauding to. And that's just, one thing we're all going through these days. That is, as we stay safe and stay patient and wait until this thing moves along. You're listening to Roundtable. Coming up next, it's often fathers who are shopping for groceries during the coronavirus outbreak. And why is it a bit hilarious when dads hit the grocery stores? Stick around, everybody, to find out more on that.
Looking for passion?